Before you turn out the lights, before the house settles, before your thoughts finally quiet, stay with me for just a moment longer. This is One More Before Sleep. Short horror stories meant to be heard in the dark, when the world feels still and your imagination does the rest. These are tales of quiet dread, lingering unease, and the feeling that something isn't quite right, even when everything looks the same as it always has. So get comfortable, lower the lights, and listen closely. There's always time for one more before sleep.
13th Step by Hill Country Writer. Read by Andrew Attanasio. Don't forget to count the stairs, I call out to my godson, William, as he opens the door to the basement. Yeah, I remember, William replies as he flips on the light switch and starts down. I warned him time and again about the 13th step. The step that shouldn't be there, but sometimes is. The step that will lead you to hell on earth. But who would believe an old man about such a thing? My brain counts everything. Ticks of the grandfather clock in the corner, the number of floor tiles in my kitchen, and the number of stairs I walk down every time I go into the basement. It's 12 stairs. It's always 12 stairs, and has been since I was a boy, except when it was 13. I was 16 years old, a senior in high school thanks to skipping 2 grades. My father had asked my sister Erica and I to bring up the Christmas decorations while he and my mother went out to do some last-minute shopping. 8 years my junior, my sister mostly followed me up and down the stairs like a lost puppy, occasionally grabbing one of the innumerable Christmas-themed throw pillows my mother would smother our couch with from December 1st until January 2nd. I was lost in thought, daydreaming about my date with the homecoming queen Sadie that I had planned for Saturday. But my brain still dutifully counted the stairs at each foot struck. After 12, I expected to feel the solid thud of concrete beneath my foot. Instead, the faint echo of wood filled the air for the 13th time. Momentum pushed me forward before I could react. My next step on what should have been solid concrete sank my ankle into soupy mud. The shock of wet and cold brought me to a sudden stop, just before Erica slammed into me from behind. I stumbled forward, my hands reaching out for the basement wall, which was no longer there, as I fell to my knees into what I suddenly realized was a dimly lit cave floor with 3-inch deep watery mud as far as the eye could see. Torches lined the walls, stretching out into the distance as far as I could see as I scrambled to my feet and spun. Erica stood behind me, frozen in shock and fear as her eyes took in our surroundings. She, too, had stumbled forward off the steps but had managed not to fall into the mud like me. I focused behind her, looking at what should have been the well-built solid wood staircase we had just walked down. Instead, a decrepit, rotting staircase led up into the darkness above, the faint outline of a door barely visible into the heavy shadows. "Where are we?" my sister asked as she reached for my hand. I scrubbed as much of the muck from my palm onto my jeans as I could before lacing her fingers in between mine. I could feel her trembling with fear as she stepped closer to me. "I don't know, but there were too many steps on the way down. There were 13 steps," I said as I looked back over my shoulder into the distance. My sister had the same affliction as me. The significance of 13 steps would not be lost on her, even at the age of 8. "It's impossible," she cried, her voice rising in terror. "There's only 12 steps." "I know, but it happened. Somehow we walked down 13 steps on a 12-step staircase and wound up here." Before my sister could reply, a scream of terror and pain filled the endless cavern, echoing off the walls as the overwhelming sound hit us. The scream grew louder, bringing a torrent of wind with it. Erica's hair whipped around her face as the wind grew stronger and stronger, pushing us away from the stairs and deeper into the cavern. The torches winked out as the wind tore down the cavern, leading us into utter darkness. I tried to pull Erica closer to me, tried to muffle the screams by pressing her head into my stomach and wrapping my arms around her head, but before I could, the wind pressed hard against me from all sides. No, not the wind. Something in the darkness. The something began to squeeze around my body, constricting around every inch of me. I heard Erica scream in terror and knew she must be feeling the same presence in the wind. Without warning, Erica's hand was torn from mine as the presence in the darkness pulled her away from me. The screaming wind died away as suddenly as it appeared, taking my sister and the malevolent presence with it. I was alone in absolute blackness. With trembling hands, I fumbled for the Zippo in my pocket. All the cool kids carried Zippos, even those of us that didn't smoke. I flipped the lid open and dragged my thumb across the wheel, the sudden spark and flame blinding me for a moment as it surrounded me in a small pool of light, pushing back the darkness. I stumbled forward where I remembered the closest torch to be, silently praying that it was still there. After a few minutes, I found it and held the lighter up to the end. The torch caught immediately, expanding my pool of light as I pulled it from the wall. In the distance, I saw one mudcake shoe, bright pink with Velcro instead of laces, laying on the ground. Erica's shoe. I screamed as I ran towards the shoe, grabbing it up as tears began to fill my eyes. I blinked them away. This was no time to cry. It was time to find my sister and then get the hell out of here. I marched down the endless cavern, lighting the wall-mounted torches as I came to each one, righteous fury filling me as I decided to find whatever had taken my sister and kill it, or at least die trying. For hours I walked and walked, the torch in my hand never burning out as I continued to light torches along the way. My legs felt like lead as I pulled one foot after the other out of the mud and forced myself to continue forward. Finally, exhaustion won and I fell to my knees. Despair filled my heart as the last bit of hope fled from my body. My sister was gone. I had no hope of finding her, no hope of making it to the decrepit staircase that had replaced ours. Tears once again filled my eyes as I looked back along the row of lit torches that stretched into infinity back the way I had come. The last thing I saw was the torches begin to wink out as the echo of another scream preceded the wind that was coming towards me, back from the way that I came. Time stretched on into eternity as the living darkness engulfed me once again. The darkness had changed. It was no longer exploring me. This time it hurt me. My parents found me unconscious in the basement when they came home that night, my body covered in cuts and what physicians would later describe as the bites of animals. I still held my sister's shoe in my hand, my fingers locked in a vise around the small sneaker. Her body was never found. Police determined that someone broke in, attacked me, and kidnapped my sister. The psychiatrist my parents sent me to insisted that the cave was my mind's way of protecting me from the reality of what was done to me. But I know better. I know what I experienced, and I know my sister's still in hell. It's been 30 years since I stepped on the 13th step. And in those 30 years, I have dedicated my life to preparing. When that step appears again, I will charge into that darkness and rescue my sister or avenge her. I listen as William's footfalls echo back up from the open basement door. my mind automatically counting every footfall. 10, 11, 12, 13. The hollow sound of a 13th wooden step catches my ear. I'm out of my chair and racing towards the stairs before Willem's voice reaches my ears. He was counting, just like I told him to for the last decade when he's been my godson. By the door to the basement is a large duffel bag, one full of everything I will need to fight the darkness. I grab the bag and I rush down the stairs, passing William as he stays perfectly still on the 13th step, keeping the gateway between our reality and hell open. As I pass him, my feet once again sinking into the watery mud, I reach into the oversized bag and pull out a fistful of chemical light sticks. I toss the foot-long glowing sticks into a circle around me as I pull out the rest of my gear. 5 minutes later, as Willem walks slowly up the stairs, I pull down the plexiglass face shield and pull the twin-cylinder tank onto my back. From the corner of my eye, I see the stairs transform back into the rotting set as Willem closes the door, blocking me out from my reality. As the screaming starts, a cold smile spreads across my face as I turn on the ultra-bright LED lights attached to both sides of my helmet. I charge into the oncoming wind, my cry of rage as loud as the screams of the creature coming towards me in the gale. My finger squeezes around the trigger in my hand. A jet of flame shoots out into the darkness, filling the cavern with hungry flames. "Where is my sister, you bastards?" I scream as the darkness retreats from my advancing flame. Now I am the hunter. Now they are in my hell. Erica, if you're still alive, I'm coming.